same but aren't, so don't bother trying to match. D. On the radio. This dial isn't accurate. Too low. D. She'd labeled the spices in the rack, as if her city woman tenant wouldn't know them. Denise knew more or less nothing about her. They'd not even spoken by phone. One mid-morning 3 weeks ago, the dolls posted their home with 2 pictures, and a half-continent to the west, Allie got out of bed, checked the new listings, and called them. Stefan answered. The arrangements were made within minutes. She directed him to her online bio at the Gilshy site, but he asked no questions. She told him how she'd pay, when she'd arrive, that she had a car and a dog. He didn't even ask about the dog. They'd signed on for a year of mission work, the dolls, and flew off to French West Africa 2 days before she drove down the long gravel driveway and emerged for a first live look at her hideaway. It was low, set into a small depression against high maples. She looked right through it, through the front windows to the back ones, with the trees beyond interrupted briefly by the roofline. She saw the ravine behind the house and the hill rising up the other side of it. The arresting effect of seeing through obstruction held her for a time, until Crooner shot across her field of vision and set her back into motion. As described, the key was under the T formed by 2 cherry logs beside the woodpile. Then she opened the door and was home. This morning's note turned up in the phone book. The dolls had dog-eared several yellow pages and circled listings. On the page for the water service, in the familiar hand, the note read, "Look in the flower jar, important, D." The ceramic jar marked flower was empty, but for a folded plastic sandwich bag with something inside it like a bundle of vanilla beans. She held the bag up and saw a key drive. It was all wrong. Not just the drive in the bag and the bag in the jar, not just that it had obviously been hidden for her, but that the distance between the dolls and her had been compromised. She could choose not to open the drive, but that would involve pretending to ignore it. The thing was now a presence in her day, and she would have to accept it before she could fold it away. At the desk, she set it down on the papers beside her laptop. Every passing day promised a future further removed from human meaning. She had been putting off the thought of consequences, of what happened when a person loaded her dog into a car and drove thousands of miles away from her life. You could put off almost anything, it turned out, with chores and long walks and new kinds of findings, the blue shades of snow in deep woods, the patterns of burn marks on lightning-split trees. 2 mornings ago, she'd come across a kill site covered in deer fur, and 80 feet away by a stream, the carcass. Spine and pelvis, the legs gnawed white to a few inches from the hooves, the pelt piled inside, and coyote prints all around. Her being there in the aftermath did not feel like an intrusion. She'd had a week to settle, to prepare herself. Now it was time to see who she might be. An open letter. She would send it to a whistleblower site. She wrote that until days ago she worked at a branch of an unnamed pharmaceutical company in Vancouver. For years the goal had been a memory aid, but an unintended breakthrough led to work on a wholly new designer drug. She wrote about DNA molecules and the data won from an in-house brain booster whose market name she didn't use. But then worried she was being too technical and apologized and said it would all be there in the attachment for those who cared. But the idea, the way to think of it, this drug, was as a narcotic-free neuroenhancer of generative and lateral thought. A creativity pill. She left the farms race off the record. The millions in research failures, all trails cold, hypotheses busted. What mattered was much bigger. She was not a creative person herself, but, and she almost skipped this part too, one cold November Monday in the lab, she'd been sitting at her station with a cup of